there's a deeper opportunity for more people and more women to really understand the power of their potential, especially when you put
Mhm.
risk in front of yourself and understand that there will be some level of reward.
Introducing The Vixen Voice, a podcast for ambitious women entrepreneurs ready to move into their feminine essence, live their truth, and unlock their full potential. I'm your host, April Roberts, and each week I'll be interviewing inspiring women who decided to take a leap of faith to pursue their dream. Women who believe that they were born for something bigger. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of The Vixen Voice. My guest today is quite charming, a little bit eccentric, and very endearing. So I think you're going to love our guest, Tara Agen. She is CEO and managing partner and artist of Flavored Layers LLC, where for over 20 years, she and her partner have invested in musicians, artists, and creatives to change the world. How awesome is that? And Tara is going to share her story with you of how she left behind corporate America, even though she was extremely successful there. And she gets to be one of the artists that she's been pouring into for all of these years. So, Tara, welcome.
Thank you so much, April. What a terrific opportunity to be here with you.
Yeah, I love it. So we have met on the fly as Tara was doing a road trip from Houston, Texas up to upstate New York. And she'll tell us all about that. And we were introduced by my friend and client, Bex Wood, who's an amazing portraiture in Houston. And I know she and Tara know each other. And Bex just told me, you have to talk to Tara. So even
Oh,
though she had this crazy road trip going on, my schedule was crazy. We made it work literally roadside, and that led us to our conversation today. So I'm so excited for this.
and that was such a
Awesome.
cool time for me. I'm in transition. I think you mentioned my corporate career of 30 years for a Fortune 100 corporation.
Yeah.
And I retired last July 2023. And as I was retiring, I said, you know what? I always wanted to be an artist fully when I grow up. And I want to go back to school and study art. And so that was my road trip, starting to move some of my things here from Texas to the temporary location to start school. So it's exciting to be on that journey and include you now.
No, I love it. And I'm honored. What I love about our conversation today is we're combining two of my loves, right? As you may or may not know, for 16 years, I helped successful individuals in Houston segue into retirement through my retirement planning company. I had a TV show. I was on Great Day Houston. So I was very passionate about educating and empowering individuals and couples to live their best lives in retirement. And now I help female entrepreneurs do the same. So what's really cool, Tara, is you're like this intersection of the two. You retired, but you're starting, well, not really
Yeah.
starting a new business, but getting to step into another role in your
Yeah.
business. So kind of share with us what inspired you to make this change.
You know, I really, if I look at the inception of how I got to my corporate job, I had been really creative in most of my early years, from
Mhm.
really a teenager to early adult. And I went to go work for an ad agency out of Boston after learning a lot of the ad business in New York at a young age. And I had a good friend that I had just gotten introduced to, and she worked for Hewlett Packard. And she said, look, could your agency help us do a huge event when we're going to introduce some new products? And so I I never thought I'd go work for a corporation, let alone a Fortune 100 corporation. And I did that through the agency. And they were so impressed with me that my friend came back and said, hey, look, would you ever be interested in working here? There's an open marketing position. And I really never thought I would go there. I loved working in the advertising business. I loved being around creatives. I really got the best out of me at that point. and just something clicked, and that roadway opened, and I decided this is where I'm going to be next. And I thought I'd be there really 3 to 5 years. I was like, okay, I don't know if I'll last. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm going to be overly different. But there I was, 30 years last July, and I was like, I think I'm done. And I think I've got to go on to my next chapter. And although I thought that 2 to 3 to 5 years lasted a little bit longer, I had an incredible experience in my corporate career. I became an executive of a company, HP Inc., that I'm super proud to have worked at. And I really got to bring my whole self and really 100% of my personality to that company and to what I created and led there. So that worked for me up until that point of July last year. And then I said, okay, what next? And here I am.
I love it. So I'm curious, being an artist and a creative at heart, because there is creativity in leadership and entrepreneurship and solving
Mm.
corporate problems, projects, etc. But did that creativity fill your soul, or did you have to do work on the side, like your artwork or different creative endeavors?
I definitely did work on the side. I went in and out of, I would call it my main medium, which is watercolor painting, for many,
Uh-huh.
many years. And then I kind of lost it for a while. And as the pandemic hit, I ended up having to upgrade my phone literally in March of 2020. And the woman at
Hmm.
Verizon said, hey, for $99, do you want to tack on an Apple iPad? And you have to understand that for many years of my career, I worked in the HP PC business. So I couldn't buy anything Apple. I couldn't buy anything competitive. But I had just happened to come
Yeah.
back home to marketing. And I was like, you know what? Okay, for $99, I'll go see what this is all about. And then we all know what happened by April of 2020, the pandemic. I couldn't go into the office. I didn't want to work around the clock, and I could only do so much yoga and mat Pilates. And so I picked up that iPad and I started to
Yeah.
digitally draw and digitally paint and really
Oh,
start to
wow.
transform what I understood as a fine artist into a digital medium. And that has really changed my life over the last 4 years. I've become super curious about
Hmm.
digital art and digital creation. And that, I think, inspired a lot of why I wanted to retire and think about becoming a full time artist. But you asked me how I got there and how I scratched that itch for over 30 years. And it was really through Flavored
Hmm.
Layers, a company that
Hmm.
my husband and I started. My husband is a jazz musician by trade. And we really felt that when you present artists the opportunity to really have a break, have somebody invest in them, whether that's a piece of camera equipment, extra supplies to actually go draw or paint, live event venues that actually elevate their talent, then you really give opportunity to artists to really change the world. And so we had always done that together. I had always done that as my side job for 30 years with him, but it's really nice to come in as CEO and managing partner and really become the artist that I think I can become through the company.
I love it. And y'all have a lot going on right now. You're juggling a lot of balls, right? Renovation, opening the studio in New York. So, kind of tell us about all the projects you have going on, because I love this because, I had so many clients when I was helping them retire, their greatest fear is making sure their money is going to last, but very close behind is what the heck am I going to do with my time, especially when you're a driven individual and you've worked for all these years. And so I love it. I just want you to share everything you have going on and let everybody know
Yes.
that there's plenty of things to do, right?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I'm really living out this, it's never too late. And there's things that I
Mhm.
wanted to do to our current, greater Houston home. There were things that I want to do and always have wanted to do, which is open up a physical art gallery, not just an online art gallery. There were things that motivated me to learn and grow. I've been a lifelong learner and I applied to Pratt Institute as I was retiring. and I got in. And, my sister,
That's
who actually
awesome.
helps coach parents and kids as to what they think their college or university journey wants to be, I'll never forget her asking me, like, is this the only place you want to go? And I said, yes, this is where I want to go. I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to go to Pratt. And when I was accepted, literally, if you play those YouTube videos where kids open up their acceptance, I was on a staff meeting. I was still working, and literally,
Mm.
I see this thing come through, and I was like, oh man, did I forget some part of the application? Because I got notified. And this was February of 2023. I had to put myself off camera because I was literally going, oh my gosh, I just got accepted. So I'm going to be an
Love
art
it.
student. I'm going to be in progress of changing this building into an art gallery in New York. And yes, creating this dream home experience with all the things that I always felt I wanted to put into the home. So I'm doing a lot because it's never too late. I'm also, you mentioned money, and I wanted to share. I thought when I stopped earning income, I would be super nervous because my whole
Mhm.
life I was a big saver. I invested wisely. I didn't grow up in a household that knew how to invest. I taught myself. I had a lot of friends, from
Mhm.
people that work on Wall Street, that work in the financial services industry, that really helped me. I had a boss early on in my career who really taught me what it was to invest in my 401k. So all of those things culminated, and I felt confident, but not getting a paycheck wasn't something I was used to. And so it's been
Right.
really fun to transition into that part of the life too and become my own bank. And that's a piece of advice I would give,
Mhm.
especially for women in your audience, which is, don't hold on to every penny. You can't take it with you. And so some of the things I just mentioned, going back to school, investing in things that make my life more fun and interesting in the spaces I live in, opening up a physical gallery. Take your money and take it with you now and become your own bank so that you can take risk but also see the reward when you retire. Instead of at 80 or 90 years old, you're like, I got all this money and I didn't enjoy my life after I worked so hard to
Yeah.
try to enjoy it.
Hi, sorry for the interruption. This is April Roberts, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew about the Vixen Founders Collective. What in the world is it? It is our community where we bring together Gen X female founders, and my goal is to create the ultimate business consulting, networking, and personal growth community for Gen X female founders. So if you're wanting to know more, just click on the link below because we're having a lot of fun in there. We are growing our businesses and we are becoming better women. So I'd love to have you join us anytime. Click the link below to learn more, and I'll see you inside the collective. Well, and I like that you shared you grew up in a household that maybe didn't talk about money and for sure didn't teach you how to handle it, right? Because I coach a lot of
Right?
women on their money mindset, and we hear this story so often, or they knew their parents had just enough, or their parents were always scrambling. And so, what you did was overcome that in your lifetime because
Yeah.
as adults, it's our responsibility to overcome the things we were raised with, right? Embrace the
Yeah.
good, shed the not so good. And it's our option to choose how we want to live our lives. And so, what you're sharing is so important, especially, I coach a lot of women who are leaving corporate to become entrepreneurs. And at some point, there's a leap of faith because it's very hard to be working in corporate America, making six figures, multiple six figures, and grow your business to the same level before leaving, right? At some point, there just aren't
Right.
enough hours in the day. And so it takes the strong money mindset to know, okay, this has enough momentum that I can jump from here to here and I'm going to make it work. And so I love how you shared that you reached out to people and you developed the skill set to feel comfortable so
Yeah.
that you could set yourself up for this part of life.
Yeah. Thank you for the compliment. And I'd say there's a deeper opportunity for more people and more women to really understand the power of their potential. especially when you put
Mhm.
risk in front of yourself and understand that there will be some level of reward, whether it's a learning opportunity that you made an investment that didn't work, or it's something that you invested in and it truly just popped. And I think when you
Yep.
remove the fear factor of making mistakes, then the rest is history. I'll give you an example. Along that path in 2021, I was super curious about NFTs, which are non fungible
Mhm.
tokens. And the only way that I could create digital art that turned into an NFT was to teach myself crypto. Now, whatever you
Mhm.
think about crypto and whatever your audience thinks, there was a level of curiosity I had to have because there was no way that I was going to go create this digital portfolio of NFTs, whether I collected them as an investment and or I created them myself that someone would buy without understanding what crypto is and what I needed to do to go invest in crypto. Now, did I take my life savings and do that? No. I limited myself
Mhm.
like I've done throughout my life to take a portion of what I have and gently invest it, not gamble it, but gently invest a portion to get me going. And I did that with stocks beyond the stocks, and reward that I was given in my corporate career. I've done that now with crypto. I've done that with real estate. I've tried and buyed, as I like to used to say in my old marketing career.
Mhm.
And some of the things worked, and some of them didn't work, and some of them really paid off, and some of them were a really good return on investment. And so I would just
Yeah.
encourage again your audience to try things. Don't put it all in one place, one egg, put a couple of eggs in that basket, but go try something. And if you don't understand it, ask friends, family, coworkers, what does this mean? I know you're interested. That's how I learned crypto. I asked a
Mhm.
colleague to go teach me the basics. We spent 3 Zoom meetings together. He actually told me he ended up buying a house with crypto, and he motivated me so much to better understand that currency and that, let's call it deconstructed finance opportunity, that it's really done some
Mhm.
cool things to help me continue to learn and grow and invest.
No, I love that, and I love, like, you pointed out, sometimes you really won and sometimes it didn't work out because that's just kind of how life is. I mean, you either win or you learn a lesson. Like, I don't like to say
Yeah,
there's failure or loss, like, you either win or you learn a
no,
lesson
you
from
learn
it, right?
something. I also have to
Yeah.
say that I think I was really wound up in my 20s and early 30s about
Mm.
save, 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 and I don't have enough, and I'll never have enough, and I can't do this
Mhm.
yet. And when I met my husband, one of the coolest things he taught me was to live in the moment and that timing is everything. And he said to me
Mhm.
early on as we were dating, he said, Tara, what's the worst that could happen? We lose everything. We have to sell something. And we go find a van and we go travel around the United States, live on a beach, and you go back to doing what you're great at, which is waitressing. I have to say,
Yeah.
April, I still think from an ROI standpoint, my personality in a waitressing bartending environment still gave me the best return on, I'd call it my personality, than anything else I've
Yeah.
done. And the
Yeah.
moment he said, if we lose it all, we could always just go do something that we do well. I let go of a
Mhm.
lot of panic, fear, misunderstanding. And it was like, you're right. If we lose it all, we still have each other and we can still do things that definitely match our personality and can pay us. And as long as I'm physically fit, I can wait on tables till I'm 90.
No, I love it so much because I do the same thing. Anytime I'll be like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? And the moment you accept the worst case scenario, everything like all the anxiety, fear,
Yeah.
etc., goes away. And I've worked on myself so much for fear and just surrendering and trusting that I don't really have fear anymore. Like it's a blessing for me, but because I just trust that things are going to work out. But before, when, I had a large financial practice. I had many employees. I had lots of responsibilities. And so when I
Yeah,
would start, spinning like that, I was like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? All right, I have to fire everyone and close
it
down
is.
the
The
business. And
worst
then I
case
go do
scenario is you got to sell your
XYZ.
house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
worst case is
And then,
sell your house, get out of your apartment, sell your
right.
car, get on a bike, walk there's just
Yeah.
so many things you can do. But I love the fact that you just shared when you just let go of fear, there's so much more that's possible. And there's so much more
Yep.
reward, for that balance. And I'd call it
Hmm.
lightheartedness in your personality. And I know what some people are
Hmm.
thinking, Tara, you've never had it tough. Well, let me tell you, I was thinking, I read something, an article recently, where someone was saying, I've had 3 jobs my whole life. And I have to say that I did that for many, many years. I always had, a side hustle. I always had and was part of the gig
Hmm.
economy before they called it that. I always was an entrepreneur because my husband's had his own business for the 30 plus years we've been together. So all of that always involves some level of risk. And it was always really fun to be entrepreneurial and
Hmm.
bring that mindset also into my corporate career, which I think at the end of it all, when I reflect on it, gave me a lot of opportunity to grow, to contribute,
Hmm.
to get promoted, to lead amazing
Yeah.
teams, to create incredible products. I just feel all of that really came from, I'd call it hard work, strong ethic, a lot of
Hmm.
curiosity, and the ability to just move and groove at a young age with a lot of things on my plate that taught me how to eventually focus and be terrific at one thing or a couple of things that I had to do on a daily, weekly basis.
Yeah, I love it. And also, when you let go of fear and you step into accepting risk, when you win, even small wins feel amazing. Like there's nothing better than taking that risk and have it pay off, right? Like it feels so amazingly good. And it's interesting you talk about risk because I had a mentor that talked about, there's a pendulum, and depending on how far you pull it back, like on the risk,
Yeah.
equals the amount of success you have. And so I always had that in my head when it came to business. So I would take the risk. And then one day I realized, totally good with this in my business, not so good with this in my personal life. I got to let go a little bit more, right? I need to take risks in my personal life. And when I started doing that, all these amazing people came into my life, which to me is the greatest blessing, the
I love
people
that.
you surround yourself with, right? And it was just like life became so much fun when you learn to take yourself not so serious, for lack of a better way to put it.
You remind me of a great story. A woman that worked for me, Kathy Kwok. It was my first managing job at Hewlett Packard. And, we were having what was famous in that culture one on ones, constant feedback, open and transparent. How can I be better?
Hmm.
So, I gave her feedback and she gave me
Love that.
feedback. And she paused when I said, well, what can I do better? And she goes, is there any way you could get a dog, a cat, a pet, or some kind of partner so that work isn't your entire life? And I,
Wow. Yeah.
because I was like, wow, is that what comes across from me? And she at the time, was married. She was a young married. She had 2 younger children. And I was like, that is really terrific perspective. And when she opened up that, I'd call it question and answer for me, that's how I re engaged with Dave. And that's how I really fell in love deeper with him. And then I realized if I could be on a better, like you just noted, personal journey with people that I truly
Yeah.
loved being with, that I respected and trusted, that I could open my heart and my mind more to that part of who I knew I could be, someone who could be loved for just myself. I have to tell you,
Hmm.
April, a lot of things changed for me personally, not only from a personal gift standpoint, but definitely from a
Right.
professional gift standpoint. And I'm thankful to Kathy Kwok, wherever she is today, for asking me that question and giving me that
Yeah.
feedback.
It's funny. I don't know. This popped into my head. People come into our lives, right, for a reason, a season, or a minute,
Yeah,
whatever the saying is. But it's so true. Sometimes we have people that are just like passing through our lives and they make such an impact. They're there for a moment. So
yeah,
I love that. Thanks for sharing that story. And I like how you talked about the transparent feedback because I'm huge on transparency. I don't understand how you can operate a good business or endeavor, anything without transparency, right? And I love, I'm sure you had a moment where you're like, oh, what are you saying to me? And then once you let it sink in, right, you realize like what great
yeah.
advice you were getting.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I really can tell you from both men and women that I managed, men and women that I worked and teamed with, men and women that managed me. Women still struggle to truly give transparent feedback. They'll
Mhm.
receive it, they'll absorb it, they'll course correct, they'll improve, they'll be happy with something positive. But it's still very difficult for women to not be just what I would consider nice and take it.
Mhm.
We have to be more nice
Yeah.
and give it in the context of however that feels
Yeah.
normal or acceptable to
Mhm.
who you think you are and the kinds of conversations you feel comfortable giving. And I would just say that I don't know if I have ever been at the end of that finish line, but what I will say is I've gotten a lot better over the years at really being able to not only give feedback, but also take it.
Mhm. Well, it's important because how do you get better? And, I always say, listen to what people are telling you, and then you can make your decision if you act on it or not. Because I reflect, and I had someone who came to work for me at some point, and, super intelligent girl, younger, like her family had a lot of money. You could tell she'd never really worked. She just didn't have the work ethic, and we worked hard, right? And so, it just didn't work. And I mean, I think most other people in my office thought she was kind of a disaster, they would have said. But I was like, she came to one of my talks and she gave me feedback. She was like, hey, you tell these great stories, but you have no slides. If you put a picture behind you, like it's much more impactful. And I'm like, cool. So next time I gave a talk, I did that. And the story I'd been telling for 3 years, just because I had a picture of a mountain behind me, I talked about hiking the Grand Canyon. As I went around to
Huh.
talk to the audience, they were like, oh my gosh, we love that story. And I'm like, I've been telling that story for 3 years, you know? And so, I mean, and so from then on, I presented that way. And this is someone that, didn't succeed in her endeavor with us, but I was still listening and I was like, that's great
Yes.
feedback. I'm going to make this change and test it. And sometimes actually those are the people who are going to be most honest with you, because people who are really close to you and care about you sometimes aren't going to feel comfortable to give you that feedback. And so you just never know
Mhm.
where you get feedback from that is like life
No.
changing. And so and wishing other people the best as well, like giving them feedback when needed, I think is so
Yes.
important. But I agree with you that women struggle. I know we're a little short on time and I want to dig into something with you, but even when I've given people permission to be transparent, especially women, it's very challenging. And then usually if you have a transparent environment and they choose not to be transparent, that becomes a problem, right? It creates
Yeah.
conflict because everyone else is being transparent and they're not. So that's a little bit of a challenge. But what I'd love to ask you about, Tara, is I know you had this absolute amazing career in corporate America. Now you're getting to live your dream, your second dream of being an artist, right? But when we were chatting, you mentioned to me really the great support network of women you had around you, both that you mentored and who mentored you. And I'd love to talk about that because I hear so many women say, I just don't have like other women. And that's really what we strive to do in the Vixen Gathering, is create the safe space where we can have real conversations with each other.
Yes. I had to start at an early age. I have two sisters, no brothers. I always felt I was super
Mm-hmm.
fortunate to be in an all-female family, and my dad always used to say, "Could we even just get a male pet?" Because we always had female cats. But along that journey, I've always gravitated towards women in a very positive way. And it's probably a level of
Mhm.
sisterhood. It's a level of
Yeah.
camaraderie and collaboration. I went to an all women's college. I think that elevated my comfort zone with women. And, a funny thing happened along the way is when I started to get promoted in my career, the more and more I got to the top, less and less women were there with me. And I
Mm.
worked mostly with men in executive positions. At the end of my career, more women with me at the executive top. But I always felt that women, on my teams, surrounded by women, inside and outside organizationally. So whether it was boards I sat on, or things that I volunteered for, I looked for things that continued to embrace and elevate my female energy. And I've been
Mhm.
really happy along the way to just do that in a positive way. I get great energy from women. I was really excited that Bex introduced us because I'm always here as a
Me too.
promoter and elevator of women, women in business, women in executive positions, women who make the world go round, whether it's like my Aunt Helen, she was a chambermaid at a hotel, all the way through to people that clean the world on our behalf to make it a
Mm.
better place as, home workers and house workers and that kind
Mhm.
of staff, but all the way through to, women that, like I said, I've learned and grown with and have shared a lot with me, whether it's investment strategy, whether it's, hey, you've got something in between your teeth before you go talk to somebody. Women will do that for you. So really, I would
Mhm.
encourage your audience again to really find that special connection at work with women that you work with, special connections outside of work that women can support you.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, and it's going to segue us into my feminine energy question. So, perfect answer. But Bex actually said to us this week, we have our weekly coffee chat, and Vixen, she goes, the only thing I miss about working is being in the office and having like the camaraderie. And she was like, these weekly meetings we have totally fill that because, a lot of us do feel lonely. We're working from home by ourselves now. And so, like, how can you find that group that fills your cup, right? Where you have like that
Yeah,
right amount of feedback and interaction and transparency and just, kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. I think it's really important in today's world. And I see that people, especially women, are hungry for it because we as women,
yeah,
we're connectors. We're about community and communication, right? And as we live increasingly isolated lives, it's so
yeah.
important to recreate this community. But I know we are almost out of time. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom
Thank
today.
you.
What I would love to ask you before we go is when do you feel your feminine energy flowing the most?
When I'm creating, when I'm painting, when I'm
Mm.
drawing, when I'm in artistic experiences, whether it's a formal museum or it's a street artist, that's when I feel the
Yeah.
most empowered, the most elevated, the most spirited. That's my answer.
I love it. And I'm super excited to ask you this being an artist, but what color is your feminine energy?
Oh gosh, it's hot pink.
I
I'm kind
love
of
it.
looking at your salmony hot pink top, and I can't believe I didn't wear something like that today. But I would
We
just
could have
encourage if you
matched.
would some of your audience to go to my
Yeah.
artistic online storefront, which is tarajagen.art, A-R-T, Tarajagen as in Nancy, dot art. And you can see a lot of my, I'd call it hot pink, kind of inspired work, as well as some non-hot pink work.
Oh, I'm for sure checking it out. I love artwork, as you can see behind me. I have artwork all over
Yeah,
my house. I love color. So, thank you so much, Tara. And friendly reminder
thank
if you
you.
have not subscribed to the Vixen Voice, go to vixengathering.com and subscribe so that all of these amazing resources show up in your inbox, including Tara's website and all of her social media handles. In the meantime, you can find it in the show notes below. So definitely connect, follow with her, and let's see what's next for her. As I always say, the world needs more love. So my challenge to all of you listening is, how can you show up in love today? Love with yourself and love with those around you. If we all just focused on more love, we can absolutely change the world. So, Tara, thank you so much for today. Before we leave, do you have any last message for our audience?
Just thank you. Thank you for being you. April, thank you to your audience for
Thank you.
really being themselves, and continue to just be on that journey to truly find and love yourself. That's the best thing that you can do in life.
I love it. I got chills as you were talking. Well, everyone, it's been another episode of The Vixen Voice. I hope you enjoyed it. Go check out Tara's artwork, follow her journey in this new phase of her life. Tara, thank you so much. And to everyone listening, go out and love, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so future episodes are automatically downloaded directly to your device. And if you want access to today's show notes, including links to all the resources we mentioned, visit vixengathering.com/podcast. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of The Vixen Voice.